The boy's sobs cut through the gentle music and the polite laughter like something breaking that could never be fixed with money. Crystal glasses paused midair, silver cutlery rested untouched, and every conversation in the grand dining hall slowly died. At the center of it all sat the millionaire CEO's son, his small shoulders shaking as tears streamed down his cheeks. In a room built to impress the world, nothing could hide the pain of a child who felt completely alone. Then, from the far end of the table, a little girl leaned closer and whispered words so soft they almost vanished into the air, yet strong enough to change every life in that room. He only needs a sister. If moments like this touch your heart, stay with this story till the end, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Kindly Tube, where kindness always finds its way home. Ethan Cole was 9 years old and already exhausted by a life most people would envy. His father, Richard Cole, was one of the most powerful CEOs in the country, a man whose name moved markets and whose decisions shaped industries. Their mansion sat on a hill overlooking the city, filled with light, art, and every comfort imaginable. But after Ethan's mother passed away from a sudden illness 3 years earlier, the house had grown quiet in a way no renovation could fix. Her laughter was gone, her warmth replaced by echoing hallways and perfectly arranged rooms that felt cold at night. Richard tried everything he knew. The best therapists, private tutors, sports coaches, and trips to places people only dreamed of. Ethan smiled when he was told to, behaved politely, and never complained, but at night he cried alone, hugging a pillow that still carried a faint memory of his mother's perfume. What hurt most wasn't her absence, it was the silence that followed. His father loved him deeply, but love filtered through assistants, schedules, and late-night calls felt distant to a child who needed someone to sit beside him and simply stay. The dinner that night was meant to be different. It was a charity gala hosted by the Cole family to support orphaned and foster children. Influential guests filled the room, cameras flashed softly, and speeches were prepared about generosity and hope. Ethan was supposed to represent the smiling face of success and compassion. Instead, as the courses were served, something inside him cracked. Watching families laugh together, seeing parents lean toward their children, the weight of his loneliness became unbearable. Tears came suddenly, unstoppable, and before anyone could stop him, he was crying openly at the table. Whispers spread. Some guests looked away, embarrassed. Others offered sympathetic smiles that meant nothing. Richard felt panic rise in his chest. This was a problem he couldn't solve with authority or wealth. He knelt beside his son, gently asking what was wrong, promising new toys, new trips, anything. Ethan tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. How could he explain an emptiness he didn't understand himself? That was when Lily stood up. She was small, maybe 8 years old, with simple braids and a dress clearly chosen for her by someone else. She was there with her foster home, invited as part of the charity's outreach. Lily had learned to stay quiet in rooms like this. Quiet children were easier to place, easier to forget. But something about Ethan's pain felt familiar, like looking into a mirror she had known all her life. Without asking permission, she walked toward him. The room watched in confusion as she leaned close and whispered, "You're not sad because you're weak. You're sad because you're alone. You don't need all this. You only need a sister." Ethan looked up, his tears slowing. No adult had ever said something that felt so true. Lily didn't try to stop his crying. She didn't tell him to be strong. She simply understood. For the first time in years, Ethan felt seen. He reached out, holding onto her sleeve as if afraid the moment would disappear. Richard froze. He had heard thousands of pitches, speeches, and negotiations, but nothing had shaken him like those 5 words. He looked at Lily differently now, not as a charity case, not as a guest, but as a child carrying wisdom forged by loss. Later that night, after the guests left and the cameras were gone, Ethan asked a question that would change everything. "Dad, can Lily come back tomorrow?" Richard didn't answer immediately. He watched his son for a long time, noticing something new in his eyes, a small spark of hope. The next day, Lily returned. Then the next. She and Ethan spent hours drawing, talking, sometimes just sitting quietly together. She told him about moving from home to home, about learning not to unpack too much because she never stayed long. Ethan told her about his mother, about how the house felt too big without her voice. The process that followed was not simple. Richard faced doubts from his advisors, questions from the media, and fears he didn't want to admit. What if he failed her? What if he couldn't be the father she needed? Lily, meanwhile, was careful not to hope too much. She had learned that promises often faded. But Ethan never let go. He talked about her at school, saved her a seat at dinner, and for the first time in years, laughed freely a months past. Paperwork was signed. Interviews were done. Long conversations were had late at night, not about business, but about bedtime stories, school lunches, and how to build a family again. On the day the adoption became official, Lily stood in the same dining room where she had once whispered 5 life-changing words. This time, she wasn't a guest. She was home. Ethan held her hand tightly, grinning in a way no one had seen before. Richard felt something inside him heal, a realization that success meant nothing if it wasn't shared with love. The mansion felt warmer now, filled with footsteps, laughter, and the sound of 2 children growing together. This story isn't about money or status. It's about how one small act of kindness, one brave whisper, can mend broken hearts. Sometimes, the family we need isn't found through wealth or power, but through understanding and love. If this story touched you, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to Kindly Tube for more stories that remind us that kindness can change everything.